New Tory Lanez album. We're covering all bases with it. We did some like slow R&B stuff. We did some more fast-paced R&B stuff. We did a whole trap section. We even threw in a little dance hall in there. This is the ultimate Tory Lanez tutorial. We covered all bases. Here's a quick preview of all the beats. So yeah, there's a lot we're going to cover in today's video, but we're going to get it done as quick as possible. A lot of it falls from the same ideas, so I'm going to show you exactly how to start, starting with the more fast-paced R&B section. Took me a while to make this, but it's much more simple than you might think. The tempo range you want to be in for this is like probably about 75 to 100. I'm at 85 and it's going to be like double time. So this is actually 190, I believe, but I make it in half the tempo. Main thing with these Tory beats are going to be the vocals. Other than that, we just got a couple simple melodies going on, but nothing too crazy. I'm going to start with the piano. It's a lot more simple than you might think. We're in the key of D minor, got all the scale highlighting, all that. But yeah, I just simply laid down the bass notes to start. I just came up with a pattern that I thought sounded cool, and I ended up laying down this. You don't always have to start on the one of your scale. A lot of people will see like, oh, I didn't start with D. Like, what am I doing? Like, it's not that deep. A lot of people think you have to start there, and you could. I could have built like a progression, maybe something like this. Like something like that. What seems to do well is like kind of like going up like this or going down. When we have our bass notes, how do we actually build chords? So I copy these up 2 octaves because I wanted like a strong like bass in the copying them up. I literally just use triads. I messed around with the voicings just to give it a different feeling. Especially this last chord here in the original, I thought it sounded a bit too bright and happy because we're making some like a little bit darker, sadder, emotional R&B. Put it down an octave, sounds a lot darker. Using notes in the scale, I just simply filled in the spaces. And then this last chord here, it's literally the same chord, but the inversions are different. So both of these down an octave, but then I just layered the A. Now for this counter melody, what you can do is just use notes that are already in the chords you're playing. Can't go wrong with that. It's not going to sound bad if you do that. Then another thing is to do what I call walk-ups. This chord hits on the F. So what we can do is we can walk up to F. So 2 notes before F in the scale, D, E. So it goes walking up, D, E, F. Then another walk up over here. We're going to A, F, G, A. We have a walk down as well. We're going to this E, so E, F, E. Then this right here is simply the same chord, up an octave, strummed it. And notice how low the velocity is. If everything was just on the same velocity, this melody would sound pretty bad. From there, I already had my vocals ready. I actually worked with a vocalist for this loop. I'll show you the original stuff I was set, because it was originally for an entire different beat, and I flipped it for this. Yeah, just a bunch of vocal takes. After a bunch of manipulation, speeding it up, pitching it up, chopping different vocal sections in the loop together, I got this. Then we have another section. Same as the first section, but down an octave. When it comes to chopping up your vocals, it is a complicated process. I mean, you just kind of have to pick sections, see what sounds good with your melody. There's no other way to really teach it. I will say most of you out there probably don't have vocalists yet, and that's something that in the future I'm going to help you guys with. For the meantime, I would recommend Splice, Arcade, stuff like that. But if you are using a vocalist, I'll show you how I mixed it. Started with a very basic vocal stack, limiter, noise gate, EQ, compressor, downgradizer, chorus, reverb. You want a lot of reverb for these types of beats. A lot of delay as well. I went for a super fast delay. And then when it comes to these Tory beats, you don't want the vocals to overpower, because you got to remember there's going to be a rapper on this. So we're just going to take out a lot of the high end from it, just so the artist has space to breathe. Next sound in Analog Lab, I layered this pad, the exact same chord, just got rid of all the extra notes and stuff like that, and this is what we got. We're taking out the high end again. Want all these sounds pretty in the background. When it comes to your melodies, you don't want too many sounds in the same frequency range. And this piano and the pad, they were clashing a lot. So in the beat, these sounds don't play at the same time at all. We have a good basis here of vocals and chords, but we need to make it a lot bigger. So this is where all the layers come in. And it's pretty easy at this point because you're just layering the same chords over and over again. So the next thing we added is another pad. We have these Omnisphere strings, same exact chords, similar mix. We have this Omnisphere bass line, which is really just copying the bass notes from the chords, but then in between, we do have like some walk-ups again. We have this arcade patch, which is just like a little counter melody, and I exported it just because I wanted to fade it out. You'll notice these really aren't even counter melodies. They're kind of just like ambient noises. You can't really fill up these beats with too many melodies. There's not enough space. But that is going to be all the melodic elements for the first portion of the beat. In this section. Now for the drums, it's very simple. There's just a bunch of layers again, which is why it looks like there's a lot more than there actually is. But we just started with a basic trap snare. Layered that on a rim. Then we added another rim for bounce. Very, very standard stuff at this point. Now this is where it gets interesting though. We got the kicks, which at the beginning just follows the rhythm of the chords. I think that's a good basis for you to start with. And then I just added a few extra notes in there. I see so many people do like very basic patterns like this, and it doesn't follow the rhythm of the chords, and it just sounds off to me. Like especially right here, it just sounds off. So that's why following the chords is a good baseline. Now, if you watch my Drake Party Next Door tutorial, I did a very similar beat to this. And what I said in it was don't really use hi-hats at all, just because, you want to leave a lot of space and room for the artist. But Tory actually does use a lot of hi-hats and very bouncy hats as well. So I'm going to show you the pattern first, then I'm going to break it down. So this MIDI was actually originally from the Discord community kit, which is free inside the Discord, as well as all the drum sounds used in this beat. But I edited a lot to make it sound more like what I was trying to go for. So the basis of it actually is kind of a two-step, or I guess it would technically be a one-step at this pattern. But a lot of the notes are very, very quiet. And I think that's why the hi-hats work in these beats, is because they're very much in the background, a lot quieter than you would hear in like a normal trap beat. And there's just kind of like some rolls which give emphasis here. And we got stuff like this, but everything else is pretty quiet. And another thing is giving it rhythm on the low end as well. So adding some lower hat notes. I kind of try and make them go along with the kicks a little bit, so you can compare the kicks with the hats. My best advice with the hats is to not overdo it. Don't overstress it. Just kind of keep listening back to the other drum patterns and think like, what roll makes sense here? I think the main thing that gives this pattern bounce is the variety and velocities. So I could have just gone all out, same velocity for like these notes, but I think having it so it's like every other one is quiet really gives it bounce. So like compare. and then everything the same. Like, there's way less bounce like that. Final thing's going to be the 808s. Obviously, follow your bass notes, follow the kick pattern. But what I did, I added a few extra notes in there which weren't in the kick pattern. For the mix of the drums, most of these sounds really don't have like a mix. They're kind of all just good quality sounds. So I just leveled them, make sure they were hitting hard. Yeah, that's it. For the arrangement, I arranged this a little bit differently for the tutorial's sake, but I had a lot of low passes. So on the master channel, I just added a simple low pass, which looks like this. And that's automated throughout the beat. So on the intro, as you can hear, the low pass is on. Then I kind of have the drums fade in. And then everything's back. And then most of the arrangement comes with the melody. So I have different sounds coming in and out. Get rid of that piano, bring in the pad. Get rid of the 808s, bring in the bass. And then this right here is going to bring us to the second section. So second section of the beat is going to be the slow R&B, which is actually going to be with the exact same chords, exact same tempo. I'm just going to show you the difference in some of the patterns that I have. This is kind of like the new main sound, you know, the piano and that pad before were the main sound. So we got rid of those and we brought this one in instead, which I think for these slower beats, you know, you don't want anything that's like too bright, like the piano and the pad. So just, this is all like super dim, highs are taken out sounds. We have a variation of the exact same vocal loop, except I doubled the speed, pitched it up an octave and chopped it up a little bit differently. And then this is what we got. The final difference is we added this lead from Omnisphere, which just plays at the end of each section. I think what sounds really good is using like these grace notes. So if you're going to play a note, let's say we're going to G. Go one note before that in the scale, so F, and then just kind of add like a little grace note so it slides up. And then you can even change the velocity. So altogether, these are the new melodies. Now for the drums. I'm actually using very similar sounds here. A lot of the sounds are the exact same, but the bounce is completely different. Starting out with the snare and rim is the same. I added a third snare in there, but the pattern is half the speed. We're going with a very slow rhythm now, so there's more room to be a little bit bouncier with the kicks. So I'm still hitting where the chords are hitting, as you can see, but I added a few notes in there. So something I did notice in some of these songs is that there are really big gaps still. So like, for example, this entire second bar has no kicks, but then there's also little rooms where there's a lot of kicks. So like we have 3 in a row right here. So that's probably the best way to do it, is like a lot of kicks, pretty much no kicks. 808s, the same thing as last time. I'm pretty sure I just layered the same pattern exactly. I used a different 808 sound for this, a more longer 808. This was another hat MIDI from the kit. I really didn't change anything in this, so I don't have much to say, but just very simple. Starts with like a basic 2-step, and then there's some rolls in there. And finally, open hat. And this is going to be the second section of the beat. So just for fun, I also threw in like a little dance hall part, because like Tory did like a couple songs with that kind of vibe. So I'll show you what I did for that, but I didn't put much effort into it. I just used like the exact same progression and sounds that you've already heard. Obviously in a real beat, you wouldn't do this many switch ups. It's all for the tutorial's sake. But what I did here, we did a little tempo automation and we're speeding it up to 102 BPM. Same progression, except I pitched it up, so now we're in G minor. And then I switched up the rhythm as well, so it just kind of hits on every other beat. And then again, like little walk downs, walking down to this D, walking up to this D, walking down to this G. Layering it on a bunch of sounds. I don't have to show each sound, you guys get it. For the drums, a lot of dancehall songs is just a kick and rim or snare. This one, there's a bit more going on. There's a hi-hat as well, but this is a very basic dancehall pattern. I'd say any variation of like this rhythm right here, that's going to be your bass line. So it's pretty much always going to start with that. And then in like the second half, you can kind of switch it up. You don't want to go too crazy with the kicks. I kept it very wide, spaced out. Hi-hats, keep them pretty bouncy, I'd say. Add a lot of rolls. We're not doing like a two-step here. You're going to really want to go with the rhythms. So like, a kick hit there, so I put a roll. And that's pretty much all I did for this section. Just threw it together quickly for the tutorial's sake. But all the same principles from building the melody before applies, the same types of sounds, really, because they really are just R&B melodies with dancehall drums on them. Now we're going to do a complete 180, and we're going to the trap section. There's a few different things you could have done for the trap section. You actually could have done pretty similar drums to the first beat I showed, just, with darker melodies, obviously. But I didn't want to do that just because we've already showed like that tempo. So I did a complete switch up. We're now at 125 BPM. We're just going to make some like anthem type shit. So I'm going to show you what I have here. I started with these splice vocals, actually. And I just loop that over and over again. Next thing, I heard like a lot of these like low piano notes in these trap Tory songs. This is just an E minor chord with the E layered on top and this choir VST. Your best bet for like this anthemic shit is like choirs, strings, vocals, trumpets, horns, shit like that. And the final thing is just the trumpets in contact. This is the same thing layered. Using the half steps to make it sound dark. And that's the entire melody. Drums just layered the same few snares we've been using. Laid down a pretty bouncy kick pattern. So in this melody, we're not really doing too much, which leaves a lot of room open so you can be a little bit more unique and do a lot with your drums. So that's why we have a lot with the kicks. With the hats, it just kind of started from a two-step. I almost left it as a two-step, but I wanted to add some more rolls. So it's a very repetitive pattern. It's all kind of based on like the same 2-bar phrase. Open hat, very repetitive. And then just the Z808. Only thing that's different is these notes. And that's going to be the entire trap section. I think we've covered all bases of Tory's music. This took fucking forever. So the least you could do is join the Discord. I really would appreciate that. Click here to watch another video, and I'm going to see you guys in the next one.